All right, why don't we get going? So welcome to the Dashboard Dojo. My name is David Carnes. Today, we're going to talk about digging into report types. So I can't think of a more important topic. This is the first decision in reporting. That first decision you make is which report type you're going to use. I think that they're largely misunderstood. In fact, this is such an important topic, and Salesforce knows it, that within the roadmap that they've shared, there are some changes that are coming. And it's kind of cool seeing having had a sneak peek at a little bit of what's coming with report types. I think that they know that this is such an important thing to help people with. So again, welcome to the Dashboard Dojo. Today, we're going to talk about digging into report types, and why don't we get going? Great to see all of you again. All right, so today we're going to talk about, well, me for about a minute or less. We're going to dive into reporting techniques and we'll do some examples. So unlike many of the recent sessions, we just did 3 hands-on sessions on formulas. Today won't be hands-on. The next one on April 22nd will be hands-on, but today we'll just talk about topics and I'll show some examples and we'll just kind of get through as much material as we can. So hopefully you can join us again on the 22nd and we'll do hands-on, but we've got a lot to talk about today. We'll also talk about some upcoming topics. I'm going to ask you for ideas on future topics, and then I'll talk about upcoming OpFocus training, and we'll do Q&A. So as always, we have Kyle Shagnon on the OpFocus, the OpFocus events manager, who's helping out today. Thank you so much for keeping us in line, Kyle.
Happy to be here.
All right, great. So my name is David Carnes. I'm the chairman and chief evangelist at OpFocus. I recently was honored with this title of Salesforce MVP. I'm still figuring out what that means. I did live in Japan for a number of years, and I'm a former frequenter of Jido Hambaiki. So Jido Hambaiki is a vending machine, and they are all over the country. In fact, Japan has more vending machines per capita than any other place on the planet. I very fondly remember across from my apartment there being a Jido Hambaiki for beer, and it would close at like 11 o'clock. And I remember going down with a pocket full of change and buying a liter full of Suntory beer from this old, it was a very old vending machine, but it worked. The beer was cold. If you get over to Japan, it's a cool thing to see, just the range of stuff that's sold. I mean, it's unbelievable what's sold through these machines. We're sponsored by OpFocus. OpFocus is a SaaS revenue operations consultancy. We're a gold Salesforce partner, and we operate in the US and Canada mostly. Our team is all spread out across the US and Canada. So welcome. All right, so in today's session, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. So report types. These are the data foundations for reports in Salesforce. I think that they're often misunderstood. We're going to talk about some of the special structures that are available out of the box, some of the joins and fields that are available to us. We'll talk about how to identify a report type, which can be helpful. There are a couple of ways to do that. Then we're going to shift gears and talk about custom report types. So there are over 50 things in Salesforce that we can report on. However, we can't report on it unless an admin or somebody with appropriate permissions creates a custom report type for it first. So we'll do an example of creating a report type to support reporting on dashboards. So you can't report on dashboards out of the box, but one of the 50 plus objects available to us with custom report types is dashboards. We'll do that example. So many, many more objects available. Pretty much with every new release, there are more things that we can report on only if somebody creates a custom report type first. And one of the special things about the custom report types is our ability to do left outer joins. In the age of ABM or account-based marketing, it's such a helpful thing to be able to create a custom report type, such as accounts with or without opportunities. Show me all my target accounts, and if they have open opportunities, show me those too, but otherwise, I still want to see all my target accounts. This is how you do it. You create a custom report type. We'll also talk about a couple of the other superpowers of report types, such as the ability to relabel, and we can also specify default columns. We can remove columns that just make them not available. Probably the most powerful thing we'll talk about today is something called add fields related via lookup. It's incredibly powerful. I'll also mention a rather cool technique that a gentleman named Evan Ponter has really been promoting, this idea of deluxe report types. We'll get into some related topics. There's some really interesting nuances to managing report types, permissions for report types, hiding report types, and stuff like that. So we've got a list of stuff to get into. I'm so glad to see all of you back again. So many friendly faces in the list. Welcome back to the dojo. All right, so what is a report type? A report type is a data foundation, which all reports are built on. So if you think of the foundation for a house, we could put a cottage on that foundation. We could put a bigger house. We could put different types of houses on that particular foundation. A report type is, it essentially defines the set of records and fields. So I would actually probably say objects, records, and fields that are available to a report. And so once that structure, that report type is created, then users can go create reports on that report type and try to get at the data that they want. So there are 3 types of report types. I think mostly for the last 16 years, I've thought of them as probably 2 types of report types. Actually, that's not true. Custom report types has not been out that long. It probably came out 13 years ago or so, something like that. Anyway, so there are standard report types. You buy Salesforce, you get a bunch of report types out of the box. There's somewhere around 75 of them that come out of the box. Then there's another set of them that are kind of quasi out of the box. They're known as pre-configured report types, and we don't really think of that as a thing. I didn't realize it was a thing until I dug into the help documentation. But basically it makes sense. When you activate certain features like territory management, Salesforce will deposit some additional report types to make them available to your users for when they create reports. Another feature like that is historical trending. If you activate that under setup, a new report type is added for that object that you enabled historical trending for. And finally, we have custom report types. And this is where things get really interesting, and we have a lot of flexibility, whether we're an admin or even a non-admin that's been given permission to manage custom report types. You can suddenly do more, and your reach in reporting is extended. So when we think of report types, we think of what comes out of the box. And I think a lot of us just sort of just use what we are given and don't really understand the nuances to them. So, if I go to create a new report and I select the opportunity report type category, and I see this list here, there are nuances with these that are really important to understand. One of them has to do with joins. So for example, the opportunities with contact roles, if I select that, I will never see an opportunity that has no contact roles. So it's kind of a big deal. Opportunities with partners, I'll only ever see an opportunity that has a partner with that report type. Opportunities with products actually works a little differently. It'll show opportunities with or without products. That wasn't true always. Sometime in the middle of the night, they changed it a few years back. In the olden days, opportunities with products was an equijoin. So in order to see an opportunity, it had to have products if you use that report type, and then Salesforce changed something. So I mentioned, not to confuse you, but just to say that there are nuances to these choices. The opportunity trends one is a very special report type. It's ancient. It's from the earliest days of my time working in Salesforce. What Salesforce does is it takes a snapshot of key fields once a month on the first day of each month. And it basically, so let's say at the 1st of March, you had 100 open opportunities or 100 opportunities. And then in the first day of April, you had 72 opportunities. Well, it's going to take a snapshot on those dates and the key fields in particular. And we can actually do trend reporting as of the first day of each month. This one at the bottom here, opportunities with historical trending. This is one of those pre-configured ones that you actually have to activate a feature under setup. And it's a very quick setup. You might turn it on for opportunities. This particular one then is available to use, and it allows us to compare up to 5 snapshot dates, and it tracks history for the prior 4 months. So I'm not mentioning to give you like a full set of information about all of these, more to say that there are nuances with these. There is something different between opportunity history, which I'll show you in a little bit, is different from opportunity field history, which is related to the field history tracking. We can track up to 20 fields per object, and that's where that is. Opportunity trends is that ancient feature for doing a snapshot the first day of the month. opportunities with historical trending, these names are really similar, is a very different feature entirely. I actually like to think of this bottom one as what changed since last week. It's really great for a head of ops to be able to see, of the things that were open last week, where are they now? And to be able to explain where did the $1 million disappear to from our pipeline. So let's go into an example, and this is the one that I just mentioned for opportunity history. So we have a new chief revenue officer, and she heard that we can report on recent stage changes without any special configuration. So this is true, but it's only really true if you know that it's there. So if you create a report on the opportunity history report type, there is a section of fields that are very special. We can see a from stage, a to stage. We can see whether the stage has changed and it's true or false. We can see the stage duration. There are some other fields, the forecast category. If you use that to show commitments, it's going to show what it changed from and to. There's also some special features within this one that have to do with the filters, such as the ability to just show opportunities that were downgraded, that went the opposite direction of your sales process. And then there are additional filters related to some of these fields. So you could say, just give me all the opportunities where there was a stage change in the last week. So these are pretty special. What I'm going to do is just go into my dev work here. I'm going to create a new report. And I'm going to go to the opportunity category, and I'll select that one, opportunity history, just to point out that there are some very special things. Now, when you go to create your new report, you're in the Lightning Report Builder. You can see the report type right up here at the top in this gray oval. So this is the report type we're working on. Now, it still may not be obvious. You could come in here and start typing ahead column names, but it's harder to see. What I suggest you do as you get to know your system is to expand the field pane over here on the left, and then maybe collapse some of these field categories. And this is where we can see that one kind of hidden. Now, for some of you, one of you on the call has almost 2,000 employees. You probably have thousands, you have hundreds of fields, maybe 500 fields on the opportunity object. This could be so buried down, just that there's this section in the middle here that's opportunity history information, but this is where we have the from stage and the to stage and whatnot. So if I go ahead and just change I'll just see if I don't know that I changed very much in this particular org, but and here's the include, so I can include any changes, just ones that are open, ones that have downgraded. I'll leave it as any. And then why don't I do that example of let's do stage change. I think it was last stage change. Yeah, there we go. So the last stage change, and if I use a relative date filter on that particular one, the last stage change date, I could just say this week. And I believe there's one opportunity that I changed in the past week. Okay, maybe I didn't save the record. Oh no. Okay, but you get the idea. Hopefully I'm in the right org. Yeah, that looks like it's right. Okay, so what I wanted to point out here is that there are special things. I'll just show another report type while we're at it that, these are worth exploring, these standard report types. So another one, I mentioned the opportunity trends. And suddenly we have this as of date, and we can group by the as of date. So as of April 1st and as of the next, and you have a field called historical stage. And again, we can dig into the report type definition, and we have some interesting stuff: historical close date, historical probability, the as of date, and so on. So keep in mind that the report types have little nuances to them. Even the out-of-the-box report type on opportunities, which a lot of us use every day, there are special fields in here that may not be obvious. So if I come in and expand the field pane, there's one in here for closed. This is a system generated to say, does this opportunity have the stage that's considered closed? Similar with one. There's also a last stage change date in here, stage duration. Does it have products? So that's kind of interesting. I'm going to add that one and we'll just see. So I could actually now filter on this and just give me all the opportunities that have products. So again, there's some interesting nuances to what we have available in the report types. So it looks like I have 100 opportunities that actually have products with them, associated with them. I wouldn't know unless I went and explored the report types. So I mentioned earlier this concept of joins. This is probably the single most important thing. When people ask me about the arc of my own career and what was the most important bit of learning that I did, I took a summer class at Harvard on database management. And not only was it fun to hang out at Harvard for the summer, but the class would just open my eyes to just understand data structures. So most of the reporting that comes out of the box in Salesforce is equijoin based. And you can see the diagram here. So only A's appear that have a related B, and only B's appear that have a related A. You can see the diagram here as well. And examples of that will surprise you. Contacts and accounts. You'll never see an account that has no contacts. Accounts with partners. You'll never see an account that has no partners. Accounts with account teams, and so on. So there has to be a B in order to see the A. And for a lot of us, especially with this concept of account-based marketing, where we have target accounts, we need to see the A's all the time. And if there are related B's, great. Well, we can solve that with a custom report type, and Salesforce gives us the ability to do what's called a left outer join. And in this case, we have opportunities as a primary object, and then we have products as the secondary object. And we check a box when we create the custom report type that says A records may or may not have related B records. And it says, give me the A's, whether or not there are any B's, but if there are B's, great, give me those too. And you can see that in the diagrams here. Okay, and you can see on the bottom right screenshot that there are some custom report types. This is from the OpFocus system. We have accounts with or without account plans. I still want to see all my target accounts. If there are account plans, great, show those. If there aren't yet, then we still want to see the accounts, and so on. So this is a really important concept, the concept of how tables in the database are joined. So in the Salesforce world, we call tables objects, and how they're connected together is super important for reporting. Great. Oh, great. Thank you for all the comments. Eudora, thank you. So Jean asked, does downgraded mean the amount decreased or the stage went backwards? I believe it's the stage on that particular report type. Pablo asked, it's good to see you again, Pablo, is downgrade an out-of-the-box field within Salesforce? So this is a really important concept. This is a system-generated formula that Salesforce makes available, and it doesn't exist anywhere else. It's just available on that report type. So you really have to go in and hunt and look for these things. So what I showed before were things that are out of the box and available, no special configuration needed, but these are so useful. So that's why I thought to spend time on those things. Let's see, Don asked a question. I always wondered if you can change your report type once the report is built. I think we can. Let me look. I might be getting confused with joined reports and the ability to change around, which is the leftmost thing, but we'll just take a peek. Okay, great. So let's shift gears to talk about custom report types. So really, really important topic. So custom report types allow us, meaning an admin or somebody with special permissions, to build a data foundation. Once that data foundation is created, then other users can go create reports using that custom report type. So when you create a custom report type, we can choose the core objects and how they're joined. And we can actually join up to 4 objects sort of explicitly within the report type. We can see, let's say it's accounts with or without opportunities. So that's 2 objects that we're joining within that report type. There's also another feature that we can use where we can include fields via lookup, and we can pull in fields from up to 60 different objects. I mean, this is crazy, but some of you have huge systems with lots and lots of objects, and you can essentially flatten your database using this, and we'll dive into that in a minute. We can also specify which fields are available to be used. Some of you might have migrated from an old Siebel system or some other old CRM, You brought those fields over as your binky blanket to help you feel safe and supported, but you don't want people to use them in reporting because they're ancient, the data is just decaying and rotting and stuff. So you could actually create a custom report type and remove fields so that they can't be used. We also have the ability to relabel columns. We can specify which ones are pre-selected so that when somebody goes to create a new report using our report type, the columns can be pre-identified for them as default. One of the other big reasons that we look to custom report types, at some point in history, it's sort of like one of those relationships, you know, if you're in a 20-year relationship, maybe somewhere around year 7 or 8, you know, things just don't happen the same way that they happened before in the relationship. At some point, Salesforce stopped creating report types for everything. And so there are all these objects that keep getting added to the system, but there aren't report types. So one of us has to go create a report type to be able to report on dashboards or chatter or lightning usage or other things. All right, so the place where we go manage these is under setup, feature settings, analytics, reports and dashboards, and we have report types. So this is where an admin or somebody with the manage custom report type permissions can come to manage report types. And why don't we go build one? So our sales and marketing teams have embraced account-based marketing, and want to always see target accounts, whether or not there are any related opportunities. So this is a common thing. So what we're going to go do is just go create a custom report type called accounts with or without ops. So we're going to choose the primary object of accounts, and then we're going to associate a secondary object for opportunities. Opportunities is a child of accounts. It has essentially a master detail relationship under the hood that connects. So there's a field on opportunities called account ID that connects it up. In database terms, we're using a foreign key on the opportunity table to connect it up to the account table. That's how the plumbing works. But to do that in the system, it's pretty straightforward. So we're just going to go under setup. In setup, we're going to expand feature settings, analytics, reports and dashboards. And then we'll also click on report types. And we can see in this org that I have a couple of them. I have some junk in here called accounts test. I have one called accounts with or without cases. That could be super helpful to you to report on customers. It's kind of like the kids that, you know, every year at the ballet thing, the dance studio, they highlight the kids that never missed a session across years. You know, and you always hate those kids that were never sick. So you could have, I mean, in this case, it'd be great to have a customer, could be a great customer, you're making lots of money and they're not ever calling in with a case, you know, so those are customers that you want to keep. The cost of managing them is lower since they never call in. We can see the one here for historical trending. So this is one of those pre-configured ones that when I enabled historical trending, Salesforce just automatically dumped one in here called opportunities with historical trending. Similarly, there's another one that's a quasi out of the box custom report type called screen flows that's in there. So why don't we go create our first one? We're going to do opportunities with accounts with or without opportunities. And we'll go ahead and create the new custom report type. The first question is, what's your primary object? Oh, let me count the ways we can report on stuff in no other way. This is the only way you can report on some of this stuff. Look at this, AI recorded insights, asset actions. There's stuff in here that we've never heard of. It's amazing. Dashboards, file search activity. There's so many things you can report on in no other way until you as an admin or somebody with permissions creates a custom report type. In this case, we'll just do the straightforward one. We'll pick accounts as the primary. We'll give it a label, accounts with or without ops. When I create a custom report type, I'll often put the description. I'll just put the report type label, but you could write more. Oh, that didn't work. There we go. You do have the ability to choose which category it's stored in. Interestingly, there are categories I've never seen before here. WDC calibration, no idea what that is. Never used it, never seen it. We, at this point, cannot change the categories. We can hide everything that's in a category, and therefore it will hide the entire category, but otherwise we can't change these. I'm going to just put this into the accounts and contacts. Now, the last step in creating a custom report is super important. The default is that this is left in development. What that means is that an admin can go ahead and create reports, create dashboards using reports based on this report type, but no one can see it until it's deployed. So I'm going to go ahead. This is a feature that predates sandboxes, believe it or not, but it's still in here, still usable. The default is it's in development. If you don't make it deployed, some of your end users, they won't see it. Most of your end users won't see it. Great. So I'm going to go ahead and click next. And now we get to the second part of the magic where you choose the secondary object. I sort of feel like they should have done this differently with like a big red bullseye telling you where to go. It's not really clear what to do here. Do I click on the circle? Do I click over here? I'm not really sure. Okay, here it says click to relate. This should be like blinking in red, I think. But let's go ahead and choose click to relate another object. And notice that the default is an equijoin. So what I can do is select an object and I can see all the objects that have a lookup or a master detail pointing up to accounts, such as opportunities, assets, serviced assets. There's things here you've never heard of that have a lookup up to an account. In this case, we're just going to choose opportunities. And then we're going to choose the second thing that says A records may or may not have related B records. And this is going to give us all our target accounts. And if they have opportunities, great. But whether or not there are any opportunities, give me all the target accounts. Now, I mentioned earlier that we can have up to 4 objects here. So if there is another object, we could relate a third object in here, and then all of the ones that have a lookup up to opportunities are available here. We could do products, let's say. But we lose that ability. Once you have the left outer join selected here, we essentially lose the ability to control that. Just know that there are nuances, and there is the ability to have a 4th object. In this case, products has nothing underneath it. There is no object that points up to products. I'm actually going to get rid of products and simplify this. Let's go ahead and save this. Let's go ahead and save this. And now our report type is actually ready to use, but there are a couple more things we can do to this. So what Salesforce does is it pulls in, we created a custom report type with 2 objects, and it pulled in all the fields that are currently available. If I go ahead and edit the layout, I can actually do a couple of things. I can specify what are the columns that are chosen by default. Let's say the account owner is really important to us. If I click on that, and maybe we don't call it that, we like to think of it as rep. And maybe I want to have that selected by default by anyone who creates a report. So I can click OK. Let's say account number, if we don't use it, I can drag it and drop and get it off my report. When you drag it and drop it, you just need the black bold lines to appear, and then you let go, and now it's off the report. You can see that it's no longer grayed out. That means I could add it back if I wanted to. So why don't we'll make a couple of more columns appear by default. How about instead of billing country, we call it country and make it that default. And why don't we specify beyond the opportunity name, why don't we do the opportunity close date and the amount. And why don't we give it the stage? Now we can also move these around if you want. This will reorder them. So I could put stage and close date. I can also create entirely new sections. So we can create a new section and move fields there if we need to. So there's some really nice, powerful things in here. We're going to look at this super powerful feature over here in a minute. So I'm going to leave that aside for now. And let's just go see the handiwork that we've just done. So if I can get the Zoom stuff out of the way and now go back to the reports tab. So now as an admin, I've created this. This is now available and live so that any report user can go create with this. And if I go under accounts, and you can see my new report type here. It's listed alphabetically, so that was put above one that was created earlier. And so my report types here, you can see the columns. I had relabeled rep and I relabeled country. I made the ones that I wanted default. If I expand the section here, we can see that these 2 categories of fields, all of the account fields, all the opportunities are listed. And I had reordered the stage one. I sort of changed the alphabetized and moved it up in the list. So there's some interesting things we can do with this. I could come in here and just get rid of my accounts and the ones created this quarter. And I could run this and we could see our new report based on that report type. Okay, so I feel like that's kind of cool. What's really cool, in my opinion, is that there's a whole ton of stuff that we can't report on any other way unless you first create a custom report type. This list keeps growing and growing. There are things every time I look at this, every release, there are new things I've never heard of, such as this block here, authorization form consents. I don't even know what that is. Asset state periods. So chatter, if you want to report on chatter, if you want to report on contact point addresses, don't even know what that is. Contact requests, dashboards, the list goes on and on of stuff. So it may be worthwhile. I just saw a nice post on Twitter the other day. Somebody just shared out the ability to create essentially like a data dictionary. You can actually get into the metadata by creating a report type, and it might be on objects. So let me just go see, we'll figure out which one it is. So if I go back to my setup, under feature settings, reports and dashboards, report types, and create a new one. And we just look in here. I'm not going to remember what it is. We can create a report on reports. That can be helpful. We can create a report on dashboards. There was one in here that was like entity types. Okay, here it is, entity definitions. Now, you might have to play with this a little bit. If you create a report on this, like there's just a bit to learn. It's worth tinkering. I would probably put that under administrative. So I'm not actually going to save this, but I do want to show you that, there not only are there objects you've never heard of in the list, but there are even further child objects that you've never heard of. So if I create a report using the primary object of entity definitions, I have the ability to pull in field definitions below those entity definitions and so on. All right. So why don't we create one more report type on dashboards? So very, very simple example, but this will allow your users to now create a report on all your dashboards. Maybe you want to go in and clean up the horrid mess on your dashboards tab. So once again, under setup, we go to report types, create a new report type, select dashboards. And we'll literally just call this dashboards. It is possible to actually report on the components as well. I'll probably put this one under administrative reports. Again, I'll make it deployed. So I'm creating a report type on dashboards. I'll click next. And there is the ability to do chatter feeds related to dashboards. And you could also pull in your dashboard components if you really wanted the full definition. I think for a lot of us, we just need the list of dashboards. But when I save this, now anybody in the company can now create a report using this if they can find it. And we can see the fields that are available. Some of these are related to Classic. Some of these fields are related to Lightning, like the color palette. If you see that it has a color palette, or if you see that it's using the grid, it's actually a Lightning dashboard. So that might be helpful if you still have dashboards in your system that are legacy Classic ones and you want to clean those up. All right. So I mentioned that there's a very powerful feature called add fields related via lookup. Now, this is one of those things that I probably waited too many years. I might have even waited a decade after this was available to actually use it. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is so incredibly powerful. Like if you walk away with nothing else, I want you to know that this is powerful and it's super useful to essentially flatten the database. So for those of you that use CPQ and you have subscriptions and contracts, and those contracts are related to accounts and those accounts are related to other things, you can actually pull in related fields, and pull them in and essentially flatten the database to make it easier to report on. So this is a custom report type feature. You create your custom report type, and then you can add fields related via lookup and pull in and flatten those. And you can actually traverse up to 5 parent objects, and you can pull in fields from up to 60 objects. And I think you can have 1,000 fields on a report type. So those are a lot of numbers jumbled together, but this is super powerful. You can see right now, I'm only using 39. I created a report type called opportunities, and there were 39 fields out of the box, I could add fields from 60 other related objects and pull it in and flatten out the database. So I think I have one of these created, and I called it flat opportunities. And I'll just show you what I did here. So I created my custom report type on opportunities. I gave it a name. And then I went into the edit layout section. And over on the right of the edit layout section, there's a link here that a lot of us just miss. So it says add fields related via lookup. And what I have the ability to do is pull in fields from other objects. So I've already done that here for primary campaign, which is a field on the opportunity. And I've pulled in the campaign name, the campaign type, and the campaign status. And you see the little magnifying glass here. This is telling me this is a lookup field that's been pulled in from another object. And I've also used the lookup through the account owner, and I'm pulling in the account owner's full name, their email, their mobile phone, and what country they're in. And I've done the same with the primary partner, which is another lookup field to the account object. So you can have multiple lookups to the same object, that's fine. And these absolutely can traverse custom lookup fields that you have in your system. But this is essentially flattening the database to allow me to do more reporting at that lowest common denominator level. In this case, I'm trying to report on opportunities. And so if I click on this add fields related via lookup, this feels like Salesforce 12 years ago. Some of these screens that we're looking at are ancient. So this is not new functionality, but I could go grab fields from my price book. And I could say, is this using an active price book? Or I could pull in the price book description. So why don't I pull in the price book name, and maybe is this a standard price book and is it an active price book? Something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And then it's added those fields to the top section. What I typically do is create sections, and these become important when you go to create your reports using the report type. So I'm going to create a new section. I'm going to call this price book, maybe price book detail, something like that. And when I scroll down, I'm going to actually drag in those couple of new fields. And I could actually multi-select, but I'm not. And then is it standard? So I've now made my change to this report type. So when I save this, I really need to get a bigger screen here. That's too funny. So when I save this, I can come up and now create a new report using that, and I have access to all of these additional fields. So again, I said this is probably the most powerful thing. Custom report type is incredibly powerful, but this lookup capability is really, really useful. So if I come in and choose this one I created called this custom report type called flat opportunities, now watch what happens when I expand this section over here. Now I have additional campaign fields available to me. I have additional account fields, additional primary partner fields, and this price book section that I just created available to me that I can now use. So I'm essentially flattening the database and giving myself access to so many more fields through this. All right, so that's a feature called add fields related via lookup. If you edit the custom report type that you've created and specifically go into the field layout section over on the right, that's where you see it. And here's the link over here. I think there might be some more questions. So George says, so amazing, lookups to traverse up to 5 levels. Boom. Oh, I love it. That's great. 60 objects. Thank you for recapping all that, George, because I didn't put all those numbers into the all right, George, now you're going too far to say it's like seeing a whole new color. I love it. What would you call that color, George? We'll call it in honor of you. It's the George color. So I do want to mention this whole other realm of thinking that's out there. So, you know, one of the real sharp guys in the Salesforce world, a deep thinker on reporting, and some of you have seen me share his blog before. So there are 2 gentlemen, Aaron Creer and Evan Ponter, that started this Report Force blog. So Evan has done deep thinking, and he's spoken around the world on Deluxe report types, which is a whole other way to take advantage of what I just showed you by using those related lookups, and to go one step further. And he even advocates even getting rid of or hiding many of the standard report types and giving yourself access to more fields. Just essentially you're simplifying reporting through this. So on his blog, reportforce.blog, he has actually a number of articles related to report types and Deluxe report types. So we scroll down here. He's done a lot of writing, Ultimate Guide to Report Types, and really deep thinking about combining report types with cross filters and things like that. I'll drop that into the chat. And that's Evan and Aaron's blog. All right, so I guess we just did this example. We played with this particular one a minute ago. I do want to mention a couple of other things. So one of them is, so not all of us are admins, right? So especially in the reporting world, this is where you get that blurred line. Some of you will never be an admin in your Salesforce instance. So you might have to beg, borrow, and steal, maybe not steal, beg for permissions to be able to do things. So one of those kind of advanced permissions is to be able to manage custom report types. And you can see here a screenshot from the profile and the checkbox there, manage custom report types. It says you can create, edit, and delete custom report types. There's something a little odd in here, and I've seen words, I've never quite tested it. I'm usually an admin in any system that I'm looking in. But the ability to delete a custom report type may also require the modify all permission, which isn't really documented anywhere that I know of, but it may be true. A few years back, I wrote a blog article for the Salesforce admin blog on report permissions, and I've got the link down here, just the simple bit.ly link, just bit.ly report_permissions, where I basically make suggestions on who might have each of these 31 report and dashboard permissions, including this one, to manage custom report types. One of the big topics with report types is actually maintaining them going forward. So, for years, we have been just dumping custom fields into our systems. And if you had an old custom report type, nothing is adding those fields. You were the one that had to add those fields. So I got a real chuckle in the OpFocus system. We have some report types from 2012, so they're almost 9 years old. And when those were created, there were 67 fields on projects and 37 on an object called status notes. Well, fast forward all these years, I took a peek recently and there were 277 fields on the project object, which means there were 210 fields not available to this report type. So somebody would actually have to go manually drag and drop all the 210 fields. In my opinion, it's actually faster to just create a new report type. But I do want to point this out. This is a real problem with custom report types all these years. So there are two ways to tackle this problem. So one is to go edit all these old report types and drag the fields. And unfortunately, you can only drag them one by one, which is kind of maddening. So you can see all these fields here like shipping street, SIC code, SLA, that are not on this underlying report type. So I'd have to drag them one by one. It's very slow. Something you should absolutely do is check the box. So this came out in the winter release, the ability to auto add a new custom field to custom report type layouts. So if this is not checked in your system, this is one I wholeheartedly check. There's only upside, there's no downside to checking this box. This should become GA, safe harbor, I think in the summer release. So in another 2 months or so, this will just be automatically set by default. Just like it is when you add a new custom field and it says, we're going to add this to the page layout, it should be doing the same for report types. So that's coming. But until then, all of us are still adding custom fields. So you want to check the box. I do want to mention one other suggestion, which is you want to be very careful deleting old custom report types. So the knee-jerk reaction in the OpFocus system would be to just delete this. Well, this could be supporting dashboards and reports. And if I delete it, those reports are gone. So basically, this is the nuclear button. So my suggestion instead of that would be to relabel the old report type, put the word old in front of it, put it in the other reports category, sort of bury it, and then go ahead and create a new. So check this box to auto add fields so that you'll always be in sync going forward. And then to go ahead and recreate your custom report types. Now the OpFocus system, we have 80 custom report types. So there's a lot of, it's going to take somebody a day to go through this. It's one of those things that just never is quite high enough priority for somebody to bother with, but it's still an important thing. All right, so a couple of other topics and we'll get to questions. We have the ability to hide report types. So this is not available in Lightning. This is a feature that is still in Classic. So if you want to hide a report type, you can jump back over to Classic. So you can see here, and it's sort of a weird feature. It's sort of like if you were to, in order to use a bathroom, you go into the bathroom, and in order to like do, wash your hands, you had to turn on the light switch in order to get water to come out. Like that's sort of the same sort of thing. In order to use this feature, you have to create a new report. And on the create new report screen, there is a checkbox where you normally select your report type. There is a checkbox that lets you select report types to hide. So this is you have to flip the switch in order to wash your hands, and you have to flip the light switch in order to wash your hands. It's sort of odd, but this is another thing that is on the roadmap. So Salesforce bringing this over and maybe hopefully tweaking it over on the Lightning side. But you can see here what I've done is I've checked that box in Classic, and I've gone down to a section, and maybe we don't use the order object at all, and you could hide those report types. And literally what you do once you check this box is just click on the green check marks, and then it literally hides those report types. If you hide all of the report types within a report type category, that category is now hidden as well. And interestingly, if I did have reports that were already built using these, those are unaffected. You just can't choose it for new reports. So we'll just do a quick example of this. Let's say we don't use solutions. Maybe we've rolled out knowledge. And solutions is an ancient feature. I don't even know if it's come over to Lightning yet. And maybe it never will. It's just such an old feature. So we can actually go hide and make it so that we have fewer report types available in our system. So again, if we're in our system, I can see these when I go to create a new report. And if I go down to customer support reports, here are those report types. Nobody's ever going to use them because we don't use solutions. So what I can do is I can actually switch to Classic and click on the reports tab. Ugh, yuck. Ugh. I just like sort of vomited in my mouth. This is like, ugh. I feel like this is so 2007 all over again. Don't tell Salesforce I said that. So on the reports tab, we're creating a new report in Classic, and here's that checkbox to hide it says select report types to hide, and I can go under customer support reports, and I can literally just click on these ones to hide them. I know that there's another solution one under activities. You know what I can do? I can even just find, are there any others? Nope, there's cases with solution. I want to get rid of that one too. That's already done. It's already saved. There's no save button or anything. So now if I switch back to Lightning, it's already done. So if I come back to the reports tab, create a new report under that, so all those options with the word solution are now gone. And if I search, it's gone. Okay, so sort of a neat, not used often feature. Where this comes up more often is when a new admin joins the company and goes, where the hell are the case reports at? Where the hell is it? Did somebody relabel this object? And somebody might have just hidden the report types. All right, so we also have that ability to relabel standard report types. This is an ancient feature in Salesforce, which is the rename tabs and labels feature. And here what I've done is I've gone to the rename tabs and labels under setup, and I've edited next to the account object, and I've relabeled the object to the word blurf. And so if I go to the tab, it'll be called blurf, and all these different places where the word account would normally be, it's being replaced with blurfs, including when you go to create a report and you have your list of report types. So I see blurfs and contacts and blurfs and contacts and blurfs with partners and so on. So some interesting stuff in here related to. So before we move on, I'm just curious for those of you that are on the call, we've got a couple of quick polls, and I'm just curious from the stuff that we talked about today. Maybe Kyle, you can load the first poll.
Yep. Have you ever used a custom report type?
Sure. Yep. So I'm curious. Have you ever used a custom report type? Thank you for joining in on the poll. Looks like we've got about 70% of you voted, 75, 80%. All right, so there's a bunch of you, the majority of you have not used report types. Is this visible to everyone, or do you have to click a show button? Oh, there we go.
That should be visible.
All right, so once or twice, some of you many times. So for those of you that haven't used it, you may need to ask permission. You may need to be given permissions if you're not an admin in your system, or you might just go into setup and go find it and start using it. Why don't we launch the second poll? So I'm curious that feature around adding related fields that flatten the database. I'm curious, had some of you never heard of it, used it once or twice, used it a lot? Okay, it sounds like the majority of you had never heard of it before. So I'm not surprised. It's kind of buried, but super powerful. Okay, so the vast majority, 66% of you had never heard of it. So thank you for sharing that. Great. So today we talked about a whole bunch of stuff. Report types, that they're a data foundation, that they provide special structures depending with the standard report types. Those special structures include joins, they include standard formula fields. We talked about how to identify a report's report type. In fact, when you run a report, I didn't show you this. So let's say you're a brand new admin, you're going, what am I looking at? Like somebody asked me something on Twitter yesterday about a particular type of how can I compare one column to another column? And I was thinking about it. Well, if you were just looking at this, trying to figure it out, if you run the report, you can always see the report type up at the top. It's right next to the word report colon. And if I edit the report, I can see it in the gray oval. Okay, this can be helpful if you're wading into a system that you're not familiar with and you're trying to understand, what am I looking at? Like, what is this report based on? So we talked about custom report types. There's so many more objects that are available to you, including dashboards, including objects you've never heard of. We have the ability with custom report types to do left outer joins, which is a really important database concept. Give me all the A's, and if there are B's, give me those two, great. But if there are no B's, still give me all the A's. And it's important to know that for two reasons. One, because we can take advantage of it in custom report types. And two, because those standard report types, many of them are equijoins. And it's sort of, we're running our businesses not really being sure of what we're seeing with the data. We can also relabel and specify default columns with report types. We can use that feature that adds fields related via lookup, super powerful. And I mentioned this great work that Evan Ponter has done with the Deluxe report types, and you can see that on his blog, reportforce.blog. We talked a little bit about permissions, maintaining report types, hiding report types, and relabeling report types. So I mentioned the blog before. It's definitely worth looking at. There's a lot of good thinking in there about report types. The next session we'll do is on April 22nd, and we'll be digging into report types, and we'll do hands-on exercise. So if you go to dashboarddojo.com, you can sign up. Love to have you back. And before you show up on that day, as right next to the link when you register, it asks you to create a special kind of dev org if you haven't done that with us before. If you've joined us before for hands-on, you don't need to do it again. This one doesn't need any special thing, just that kind of dev org. On May 12th, I thought to do a session on reporting from an end user's perspective, essentially things that we should be teaching our end users to take advantage of. When we made the switch to Lightning, Salesforce gave us a whole bunch of goodies for end users, like favorites, like the ability to click on charts and drill in and stuff like that. So I thought to ask you guys in the chat if there are other features that you'd like to see. I'm looking to schedule a second session in May and then 2 in June before I disappear for the summer. So if any of you want to pop ideas into chat, the chat window, if you have other reporting topics that you'd like to see. I've got 2 training classes coming up. I've been teaching now for 16 years on the platform somehow. So I've got an admin class, 5 days. It's all virtual, June 14th to the 18th. And then June 22nd and 23rd, I'll teach a 2-day reporting workshop where we dig into all this stuff for 2 days, which is good fun. And then we've got our Q&A. It looks like we got another question in. So George asked a question. Thank you, George. Please review the discussion on the implications from creating a custom report type, selecting with or without for the relationship. Oh, yes. George, super, super important. Okay, so a really nice example of this is account-based marketing, which a lot of organizations want to have a set of target accounts, and we want to monitor those accounts really closely through the year. And we want to see those accounts on a report with or without open opportunities. I still want to see all the accounts. Now, if you don't do that, you're going to see only the target accounts that have open opportunities. So if you choose that with or without type of relationship, you're going to give me all the A's, whatever your primary object is. And if there are B's, great, give me those too. But otherwise, don't worry, don't sweat it. Just give me the A's. So it's really important. And there are implications, George, to this if you have a tertiary and a fourth object. What's the word for a fourth object? I don't know. Tertiary just came off my lips, but I don't know what the fourth one is. So there are implications to if the first one's an inner join and so on. You know, I'll dig into that more in the second custom report type, the second report type session on April 22nd. So Jennifer asks, we use parent co's. We use parent co's Salesforce. That was a bit dated. They have many fields added, similar names. Oh, Jennifer, I feel for you. You have similar named fields. Oh, painful. Is via lookup a good solution to see what fields are used by each company? Yes. Yep. So essentially, you have the ability to pull in fields from up to 60 objects. And let's say you don't even care about 60 objects. You just want to pull in fields from 2 other objects. And you can pull in lots of fields. So Jennifer, you could do that and flatten it and then just sort of see which ones are being used. That way, you know, pulling in lots of fields from a related object, you could use it that way. Oh, okay. George gave me quaternary. I did not know. That's good. Quaternary. All right. So Michael asked, do you do anything with Tableau and how it works with Salesforce to discuss the difference between reporting and analytics? Oh, it's such a great question. So there's Tableau. Super incredibly powerful, multi-billion-dollar company. There's Tableau CRM, which is the old Einstein Analytics, which used to be called Wave, which was called something else before that. And then there's Salesforce reporting. So we could certainly do a session on Tableau CRM or Tableau. I'd have to do some brushing up on those topics, but it's worth it for me to dig into those topics. So thank you for the suggestion, Michael. All right, any other questions come in, Kyle?
There are a few in the Q&A box here. Jay asked, how does OpFocus organize our report types? What's our naming convention so that we can find them again?
It's the Wild West. It's the Wild West. The cobbler's kids never wear shoes. So, naming convention, I would absolutely consider it. You might have your primary object and then child objects. I like to use the with or without. You may see older ones that have like W/ or W/O. The reason was they used to give us just a tiny amount of characters per name. So in the OpFocus system, we have some really old ones that have these squished names. And then Salesforce gave us the ability to have longer custom report type names. But I would absolutely list the objects that are involved. And then you might, like what Evan suggests, if you're doing a deluxe one or have some kind of a name like flat or deluxe to say that you're pulling in many other fields through joins on other objects. Sean asked the question, if you create a custom report type and later add additional fields to one of the objects in the report type, will the new fields be automatically included? Oh, Sean, it's such a great question. So the answer is no, unless you check that box. So somehow I came out of presentation mode. Too many things on my screen. So if you check that box for this one here, you want to check this box. Everybody, please raise your right hand. I solemnly swear I'm going to check the darn box, because then from that moment on, all custom fields get added to all report types. But up until that point, the fields are not being automatically added. You as an admin are responsible for maintaining that. All right, Brenda asked the question, I'm new to reports, trying to get my report to show opportunity, stage, change date, and the age in each stage from the date it changed from one stage to another. Okay, so Brenda, what we need to do that is we need some kind of process automation, and we need date stamp fields for every single stage. So here's the way to do it. Create a custom field, a date field, stage 1 date, stage 2 date, stage 3 date, stage 4 date, through your opportunity stages. And then you're going to use either a process builder or another type of workflow automation to say, if the stage changes, push the date into the appropriate custom field. You have to be a little more savvy than that, because if it goes from stage 2 to stage 5, you're going to want to fill in stage 3, 4, and 5. Once you have that mechanism in place, then you can create a report. You can use summary formula fields to measure the velocity of deals stage to stage. And you come up with an average. On average, it takes us, a month to go from stage 1 to stage 2, something like that. All right, so Alexander asked for a session on Tableau CRM. Great, I'm glad these are useful. Check the box. Awesome, Sean. I'm so glad you checked the box. Good stuff. All right, so I think we've hit 1 o'clock. We're all going to turn into pumpkins. Guys, it's really been a pleasure. I hope you join me back again on April 22nd. And as I mentioned before, please send me any feedback you have or requests for topics. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.